I don't think we've seen stranger things than Ilhan Omar. We have David Steinberg on the phone. He's the investigative reporter that has been really buttoning up all of the research, all of the facts on Ilhan Omar. He has put himself in danger, quite honestly, and he's got an upcoming article on blaze.com that you really need to see. He is going to take us through some of this story, but I think, David, it's safe to say that all of the things that we suspected, you could now prove through social media from other people and from Ilhan Omar, based on her dad and her quote-unquote husband/brother. You now have a case that could be presented and say, you don't have to look very much further. These are the facts, right?
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, in short, I would say with the article you're going to post today that it's over from our end. There's really nothing left in that's publicly available documentation that anyone would need to have to be convinced that for 8 years she had married her brother to commit immigration fraud. And this marriage fraud also was in the service of education fraud / student loan fraud. And along the line, we have evidence that she filed at least 2 years of fraudulent tax returns, possibly 8. We have evidence that she perjured herself 8 times during her 2017 divorce from this man. And along the way, of course, we know she was living in public housing. We know she was likely receiving subsidized childcare. Essentially, almost everything she put her name on for 8 years was perjury or fraud. And it all adds up to likely the most extensive spree of state and federal felonies by an elected congressperson in U.S. history. I really have no other way to put it. That's how big this is.
And the research that you have done has been extensive and has taken you years to complete all of this. Tell me what the key to this research is, because what you've done is you've taken it and we've posted all of it. We've archived all of it. You have archived all of it. So you can see it on the social media posts until this breaks, and then they'll all be taken down. But you've archived it, so we have record of all of these things. What is the key thing that when you're looking at this story later today that people need to understand and recognize?
Well, what you see today basically simplifies all of it. This has been a confusing, bizarre case with the several marriages and divorces and changing names and birth certificates. However, all you need to know right now is her father, we've proven along the way that he was known as Nur Saeed. The last thing remaining was an actual verified example from a friend, someone who could be proven to be a friend or family or contacts or friends of the campaign, calling her father Nur Saeed Elmi. That was essentially the last hurdle. Because, of course, the man she married was Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi, and there is nobody else with that string of names who could have been his father. There simply is nobody exists in either public U.S. or U.K. archives, address records, rental applications. Nothing else exists showing that there was a second man named Nur Saeed Elmi to be her husband's father. So we had
and her father.
Yeah,
right.
Correct. To show that it was the same man. So we needed a final example showing that her father was known as Nur Saeed Elmi. This was actually the easiest research I've done on this in 3 years. It involves typing Nur Saeed Elmi into the Facebook search bar. Again, that is. I just want to point out how pathetic the local Minnesota Star Tribune has been on this coverage, because they haven't They didn't bother even to do that. But on this last one here, not only did we find one example, we found 36 examples of friends and family of Ilhan Omar or her relatives or her campaign workers calling him, and most of them are written in Somali. These were not people trying to sandbag him, trying to post false information. These were friends sending condolences. Again, I'm sorry, I didn't mention earlier that he did tragically pass away. Yes, he passed away in June from COVID-19. And by all accounts, this is limited to Ilhan Omar's criminal behavior. By all accounts, since he arrived in America, he was a wonderful man. Everyone had wonderful things to say about him. He was a kind, funny guy. That's what I've heard from everybody. He earned that reputation. This is all about proving what Ilhan Omar did from 2009 to 2017. So, again, he passed away, and there was just this outpouring of grief and condolences from around the world. And many of these people who we can confirm are very close to the family said condolences on the death of Nur Saeed Elmi. Now, beyond that, they also reveal why he was so well known to so many people as Nur Saeed Elmi, because they also call him Colonel Nur Saeed Elmi. And for the first time ever, we have two people that we can verify who were ex-Somali military forces. They verify exactly his history. So Ilhan Omar's father, as we know now from these two people, he was a prominent colonel in the Somali military from the late 1970s until 1991. We have
he fought then in the Somali wars. Was he in a good side or the bad side?
That's certainly for someone else to pick apart.
To answer.
Again, his reputation in this country is stellar. But I will say, now, he was, this was obviously, he was in the forces that were led by dictator Saeed Barre. He was fighting for that man's army. However, the United States, at least in 1982, was funding Saeed Barre, and we were fighting those two battles in 1978 and 1982 that Colonel Nur Saeed Elmi is said to have led in. Those two battles, I believe the U.S. was providing arms in both cases, and the enemy, which was Ethiopia, was funded by the USSR at the time. It gets very complicated. Now, again, it gets extremely complicated because early 70s, he was actually trained. He went to the Soviet Union and got his education in a Soviet military school. Then he returns to Somalia, joins the army, and Somalia actually switched sides at that point, and the Soviet Union backed Ethiopia, the U.S. backed Somalia. So again, I don't want to get into...
But it may, however, may not, but it may, however, shed some light on her Marxist ideas, et cetera, But again, it may not. You're not alleging any of that. The reason why this is important, the history of her father, is because of the marriage that she went through. And this isn't something she went through to get to this country. She came to this country and then used and abused and broke the laws over and over and over again. Do you have anything on the bribes that allegedly were being given for voters of $50 for elderly voters?
I'll tell you, Glenn, I've heard that too. That has been circulating for years. Obviously, that is something very difficult to get evidence of. But yes, we were talking about a string of felonies Ilhan committed from 2009 to 2017 in her private life. Since being elected or since running for office in 2016 until now, yes, I can confirm I have heard several stories of vote buying, where money.
But you don't have any, right? But no hard evidence of that.
But I have very specific stories of exactly how it was carried out. So yes, that information has been given to the FBI, and not just by me.
All right.
I'll add that.
So tomorrow is the primary in Minneapolis, and she's been challenged for her seat. What are the odds that the people throw her out before anyone in the government does?
It is incredibly difficult to say what's going on in that district. First of all, polling in that district is not terribly easy because it is heavily not English speaking. Much of the older generation of Somali immigrants, they were coming from a country where there was high illiteracy rate in Somali, and they simply don't speak a lot of English. Figuring out whether or not the community has entirely turned on her is that's difficult to include at this point. However, she does have an incredibly well-funded challenger. Now, he's a progressive himself. Whether or not he will pull this off tomorrow, who knows? There is, however, a very strong Republican challenger, and he has received endorsements from Trump. He's got quite a bit of attention for somebody who's running in what is otherwise a safe Democratic seat. Now, hopefully with what we're presenting today, the case is essentially over from our side. There's nothing else to show. We have dozens of people saying her father is Nur Saeed Elmi, that she married Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi. We even have somebody who says condolences to Colonel Nur Saeed Elmi and his 5 children, and he names Ahmed. A lot of people just were not aware. These are people who were friends and knew Colonel Nur Saeed Elmi very well. He was a prominent man, and just were not aware of all of this for one reason or another. But yeah, I also have several people saying condolences to his daughter, Layla. Layla is a woman named Layla Nur Saeed Elmi, who lives in the UK. She is the oldest of the 5 siblings, and she is said to be the person who raised Ahmed. Essentially, she was an older sibling. She's about 11 years older than him. She raised him in the UK. And on her marriage certificate, which I published over a year ago, she wrote down her father's name is Nur Saeed Elmi, military officer. There is nobody else on the planet with this description. It's over, Glenn.
You have done incredible work. Now let's see if anybody in justice even cares about it. I know they don't in Minnesota because the whole state has gone corrupt, it seems. But hopefully they will in Washington, and tomorrow they may care as they line up to go to the voting booth, but we'll see. This story will be published on theblaze.com, theblaze.com. Get all your news there and see this story. It will be published later on this afternoon. David, thank you so much. I appreciate it. David Steinberg, investigative reporter. Thanks for sharing this. You bet.